A very good evening to you. And welcome along to another sweeting swing here on Meg's Radio. I'm Howard Kane, always lovely to have your company on a Friday night. Don't forget, of course, we're alternating going forwards in the brave new world with our sister programme jumping in, but it's sweet and swing tonight. And what have we got? Bit of Jerry Grander's Orchestra, Pat Kirkwood, something from Reg Leopold at the Grand Hotel, if I can say it. But to start us off, put your shoes on, Lucy.
Put your shoes on, Lucy, don't you know you're in the city? Put your shoes on, Lucy, it's really such a pity that Lucy can't go barefoot wherever she goes, 'cause she loves to feel the wiggle of her toes. Put your shoes on, Lucy, 'cause you're here in old New York. You'll get by alrighty if you let 'em hear you talk. All the city slickers love that southern drawl.
So give 'em that honey, child, and
hi-ya.
Lucy, let the good things happen. Lucy, won't you stop that gabbing? How you act will be the death of me. Don't they have skyscrapers down in Tennessee?
Put your shoes on, Lucy, even though they kinda pinch. Stop balking, you gotta do some walking, that's a cinch. Use your party manners, you'll need 'em, and how? Put your shoes on, Lucy, you're a big girl now. Such a lazy critter,
you'd make
a dandy babysitter. Every time you're walking down the street,
you insist on stopping just to rest your feet. Put your shoes on, Lucy,
even though they kinda pinch.
Stop barking, you gotta do some walking, that's a cinch.
Use your party manners, you'll need them, and how? Put your shoes on, Lucy, you're a big girl now.
Put your shoes on, Lucy, you're a big girl now.
And she can't manage it now, she never will. That's the way I look at it. Put your shoes on, Lucy, of course. Russ Morgan and the Rhythmaires getting us going. I hope you've had your shoes on. You might have had your smart shoes on today. What with it being Tynwald Day and all. And, well, it's our national day, isn't it? Whether you celebrate it or not. Whether you go to the ceremony or whether you go to the fair afterwards and the celebrations and the Manx dancing and all the happenings on the Fairfield and all the wonderful stands behind. It's a sort of wonderfully bonkers celebration of all sorts of things, isn't it? That clash of pomp and ceremony, I suppose. And relaxing and everyone having a few drinks and, yes, by the end of the evening, perhaps letting their hair down. I don't know. Often seems that way, doesn't it? Or maybe you ignore it all and just enjoy a bank holiday here on the Isle of Man. But whatever, we should be proud, I suppose, that we are where we are and what we are. We could be in a lot worse, couldn't we? Weather allowing. But even so, by and large, it is amazing how it manages to stay dry for Tynwald Day, even in the wettest of summers. I can remember a few wet Timble days, but not for a wee while. I took out a bit of Jack Teagarden the other week, and I really enjoyed that. Naxos Jazz Legends, Jack Teagarden with It's Time for Tea, original recordings from 1929 through to 1953. Here's one Sonny Rollins did a great cover of as well in latter years, in a bit more boppy style. But here's Jack's version of I'm an Old Cowhand.
I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande, but my legs ain't bowed and my cheeks ain't tanned. I'm a cowboy who never saw a cow, never roped a steer 'cause I don't know how. I sure ain't fixin' to start it now. Yippee-i-oh-ki-yay, yippee-i-oh-ki-yay. I'm a riding fool who is up to date. I know every trail in that Lone Star State, 'cause I ride the range in a Ford V8. I know all the songs that the cowboys know about the big corral where the doggies go, 'cause I learned them all on the radio. Where the buffalo roam around the zoo, and the Indians make you a rug or two, and the old barrettes is the barbecue. Oh, I can't cut that one, Pops. You got my feet to the sock. Look out, Texas. Here I come. Right back where I started from.
Jack Teagarden and I'm an Old Cowhand. And of course, like I said, maybe Bing Crosby did a version of it, Sonny Rollins did a version of it. There's quite a few knocking around back in the day, but a nice cheerful version from Jack there. And he knew the importance of a good swing, and he had an invitation in his early years to join the Ben Pollock Orchestra. He'd known about Pollock since the early 1920s, and he'd been in New York for just a few months when he became a member of one of the best bands in the nation. I think we were talking about that the last time. And Jack led his own big band for almost 8 years, from February of 1939 through the war years, of course, to November of 1946. And during that period, well, he had to face up to a lot of difficulties, probably still not that unusual to band leaders today, starting up, becoming established, enduring lawsuits, bankruptcy. He also had to have a divorce and a marriage, as well as, of course, wartime rationing and restrictions. And, which I suppose, well, was very much of its time, and let's hope it stays that way, a constant change of personnel due to the drafting of men for the war efforts. Also, an endless stream of one-nighters, often involving 300-mile jumps, 300 miles between one gig and the next, causing accidents, breakdowns, travel difficulties, and you name it. They were in cars, buses, trains, armed forces transport cargo planes. And as it remarks in the notes, all this while maintaining a heavy schedule of drinking. Yes, they all quite liked their pop back in the day. It's a wonder in many ways, isn't it? People survived as long as they did. Reg Leopold, here's one I found gathering some dust on the shelves. Case is a bit the worse for wear too. However, it's a great one. Reg Leopold on the Grand Hotel with the Palm Court Orchestra, double CD of this. I know we featured bits and pieces over the years, but how about this little medley from Reg and the Grand Hotel Palm Court Orchestra, a medley of nursery rhymes. So how many did you pick out? I think Pop Goes the Weasel and Hickory Dickory Dock was there, I think, earlier on, wasn't it? Yeah. They're not all actually listed. Sometimes they list all the tunes in a medley, but not in this particular case. So you'll just score whatever you want to score with that one. I'm not going to score you one way or another. Nursery Rhyme Medley, it's down as Reds Leopold and the Grand Hotel Orchestra. And as is so often the case, lots of interesting backstories behind Reg himself, despite, what appears to be nice, light, easy listening. A violinist, he played in several pre-war dance bands before switching to be a permanent light music player during the post-war years. He's born in 1907. He was the 8th child in a musical family, or Opus 8, as he apparently referred to himself. And he was encouraged by his headmaster and won a scholarship to Trinity College of Music, where he studied symphony, orchestra and chamber group music with teachers including Mantovani and George Melocrino. Not too bad then. Also au fait with popular music, he recorded with several dance bands of the day, Lou Stone, Jay Wilbur and Howard Jacobs among them, and then also started getting into jazz. And by the age of 18, he was Mantovani's deputy at the Berkeley Hotel and led to the Trocadero Grill Room Orchestra, which gave him the necessary experience to become a regular with Carol Gibbons and his Savoy Hotel Orpheans. The Savoy Hotel being one of the top venues of the time. He also quite enjoyed fast living, would you believe? I know, it doesn't necessarily go hand in glove, does it? And in his time, he owned a Bugatti, very nice too, thank you, and an Alfa Romeo, which won several races at Brooklands. Not driven by Reg, he owned it apparently, but driven by another band leader. Now then, there's another story in itself. It was Buddy. Now then, I always struggle with this name, and no one ever corrected me on air, and that if you see it written down, it's Featherstone Haw. Featherstone, as in feather, with S-T-O-N, and then H-A-U-G-H, all one word, Buddy Featherstone Haw, as I thought it was. And then someone, not that long ago, said, you know how that's pronounced, don't you? Not on air, it was someone else I was talking to, and they said, no, I don't. You can put me right, they'll be very pleased. And they said, well, it's Fanshawe. Yes, I know, Fanshawe. How on earth you get Fanshawe from Featherstone Haw when you put it down on paper, I do not know. It'll be some sort of corruption somewhere along the line, but we'll have to look it up. But there we are, Buddy Fanshawe it should have been, who was a great band leader in his own right and also a great car driver as well. Later in life, he drove a Rover 3.5 coupe, did old Reg, which he described as an armchair on wheels. In comparison, I suppose, and became a household name, leading the Palm Court Orchestra on BBC Radio's Grand Hotel pre-war. That came from the Eastbourne venue of the same name, but then from a BBC studio, possibly adorned with pot plants. Who knows, is all I can say. It is Sweet and Swing. Lovely to have you along as ever on a Friday night. Don't forget, we are now alternating in the brave new world of Manx Radio. There's always a brave new world if you stay here long enough, and this is one of them. So hang around, and there'll no doubt be another at a few years in the future. But there we are at the moment. So going forward for now, we'll be alternating with Jumping In. So fear not, if you tune in this spot next week, you'll get Jumping In myself with brother Chris, looking at contemporary and modern jazz. I know it might not be everyone's bag. All good stuff as far as I'm concerned. I like both. Try it, you might. Or you might just like one or the other, which is fair dinkum. You can't account for everyone's taste, can you? But there we are. Next week it'll be Jumping In, and the week after that we'll be here again with Sweet and Swing. So, and of course, in the meantime, if you want your fix of great nostalgic music, just go to the podcast site and they're all there. You can go back and listen to them whenever and wherever you want. You can get by your usual podcast provider if you want to subscribe, or just go to the Manx Radio site and click on podcasts and you'll find them all there. Listen to whatever you like. Now, it has been Tynwald Day today. I say it has been, still is Tynwald Day until midnight, presumably. And, well, it could have been worse, couldn't it, when you look at the forecast earlier in the week. So I hope you've enjoyed it, whatever you're doing. I did have a communication on this from Paul Tier, who's a regular listening, both to this and, I think, to Jumping In as well. He said, hello, yeah, hello, Paul. Won't make Tynwald Day 2024, sadly. I'm working in London. Someone's got to work, Paul. Sadly, it's you in this case, well, and myself and obviously a few others. Can you play You'll Never Be Lonely in Soho for my wonderful wife, Jay? I thought it was a joke at first, but I don't think it is. Either way, it's a nice tune. Who will be keeping animals and house safe till I return. Good on you, Jay. It's a nice number. Joe Harrop will be singing it for us. And here it is.
If I lived out in the countryside, I would would surely lose my mind. For when I'm feeling low, there's only one place I want to go. You'll find me there, wandering the streets of Soho. Oh, Jackie, with his magic coin, gobble with rings on every finger, on the corner of Compton and Greek Street, where so many memories linger. Monday morning with champagne for breakfast, you're all dressed up in your Sunday best. Creatures of habit won't ever retire from a life filled with impulse and bohemian desire. Every day you live out the charade, a cast of characters out on parade, a glorious life, it rips at the seams. Nothing is entirely what it seems. Where did your story begin? A life lived without and within. Fortune and fame, easy come, easy go, but you'll never be lonely in Soho. Shines a light on the night that is filled with tradition. You can make a best friend of a stranger. You can lose your mind and inhibitions. There's a heartbeat in this famous town, and yesterdays. You can live it out and you can wear your crown, but you'll never be able to leave. Every day you live out the charade, a cast of characters out on parade, a glorious life that rips at the seams. Nothing is entirely what it seems. Where did your story begin? A life lived without and within. Fortune and fame, easy come, easy go, but you'll never be lonely. So, fortune and fame, easy come, easy go, but you'll never be lonely in Soho.
Very nice indeed, if you haven't heard that one before. Joe Harrop, a singer who's made quite a name for herself over the last few years and is described by no less a person who's than Iggy Pop as a wonderful jazz singer. He does do a BBC Six programme, I think. He does, doesn't he, these days? I'm not that familiar with her work, and one of those tracks, really, I think it fits okay into Sweden Swing here. I could have actually played it next week, I suppose, in Jumping In. Goes in nicely. She's contemporary. That album is actually just out last month, June 24. That one came out. Joe's how music comes straight from the heart, says one of the critics. And I'd agree. Lovely, nice jazz voice, nice backing there. Very laid back, worth looking out for if you're around the London scene or somewhere in Britain. She's touring quite a bit. And yeah, Lateralised Records is the label that she is on. And you will find her latest album out in all your favourites. You could probably download it as well, I should have thought. And thanks to Paul for that suggestion. Very nice indeed. And I do hope, Paul, that your Memsaab J will keep the animals safe and the house tidy until your return. Where should we go from there? How about a bit of Jerry Gray? Holidaying. Well, it is a holiday, isn't it? With strings. Gray and Holiday for Strings. Jerry Gray, the man, of course, behind Glenn Miller, as it's often stated. Well, at least that's the how the story goes, and that he was one of the finest big band arrangers of his generation, and through his prolific and creative work all the years for the orchestra of Glenn Miller and Artie Shaw, he got great recognition for his skill. And in many ways, Glenn was Jerry I should say, was the arranger in the years around the wartime, really, 1938 to 1945, and shaped the sounds of the two swing era's most famous and successful, really, dance orchestras. As the chief arranger for Artie Shaw, his arrangement of Begin the Begin, the Cole Porter number, produced a huge hit which catapulted the band there to fame in 1938. And his work for Glenn Miller enabled Glenn's band to become America's #1 orchestra with a whole string of best-selling records, of course. And Gray also composed many of the best-known and enduring swing numbers. String of Pearls, one of Glenn's. Pennsylvania 65000, one of Glenn's. Sun Valley Jump, yes, a man with rare talent, I must admit. And obviously the band was fantastic as well, as was the leader himself, the late Glenn Miller. And that sort of mystery behind. Sadly, I'm sure his plane came down over the sea, but everyone loves a mystery. Adds to the allure over the years, doesn't it, I suppose? Now then, what did I promise you towards the beginning? The unforgettable Pat Kirkwood. An early one from our friends at Abbott, this one, I think. And it's a case of just being one of those things.
As Dorothy Parker once said to her boyfriend, fare thee well. As Columbus announced when he knew he was bounced, it was swell, Isabel, swell. As Abelard said to Eloise, don't forget to drop a line to me, please. As Juliet cried in her Romeo's ear, Romeo, why not face the fact, my dear? It was just one of those things, just one of those crazy flings, one of those bells that now and then rings. Just one of those things. It was just one of those nights, just one of those fabulous flights, a trip to the moon on gossamer wings. Just one of those things. If we'd thought a bit of the end of it when we started painting the town, we'd have been aware that our love affair was too hot not to cool down. So goodbye, dear, and amen. Here's hoping we meet now and then. It was great fun, but it was just one of those things. It was just one of those things, just one of those crazy flings. Just one of those things. It was just one of those nights, just one of those fabulous flights, just one of those things. If we thought a bit of the end of it when we started painting the town, we'd have been aware that our love affair was too hot not to cool down. So goodbye, dear, and amen. Here's hoping we meet now and then. Great fun, just one of those things. As Dorothy Parker once said,
Very nice too. Pat Kirkwood in 1977 there, but Pat herself goes back, well, one of the survivors of the golden age of British stage and screen musicals. She died back in Christmas of 2007, so a few years back, but relatively recent, but had a long and very successful career and was often in the media at the time. Got used to it after a while, I think. A lot of the scandal goes with the territory, I guess. She was Patricia Kirkwood, so it was Pat Kirkwood was a real name, but she never used Patricia for the stage, always just Pat. And born in 1921, and her abilities showed themselves early doors, we're told, at the age of 7, when she was a pupil at Beechwood School, Withington, and she played the title role in the school production of The French Doll, and subsequently won a scholarship to Levenshulme High School for Girls in Manchester, where her closest friend was another future star, Beryl Reid. Now there is a link to the Isle of Man with Pat. Yeah, I know. Who'd have thought? But it's not perhaps that unusual. The Isle of Man was very much the place in the day with so many people coming over. And so it was that during a visit to Ramsey in August of 1935, she sang at a gala night at the Ramsey Cafe and Ballroom, which led in turn to an audition with Muriel Levy at the BBC in Manchester, and that resulted in her radio debut at the age of 14 on November the 13th, 1935, in the Children's Hour, in which, if you cast your minds back, and perhaps some of you can, she sang on the good ship Lollipop, accompanied at the piano by Violet Carson. Violet Carson, of course, equally no stranger to the Isle of Man. I think she had a house over here at some stage when I was a young lad. And Violet Carson, of course, better known, if you don't know her real name, you might remember the wonderfully sour-faced and hair-netted Ina Carson in Coronation Street. I love all these stories, how they all link together. But yeah, I'll keep that one sort of to the top of the pile. Pat Kirkwood, lovely. With a great lineup there. I think Bobby Orr she was playing with there, was it? It was some of the best of 1970s or 1980s, 1970s jazz in that case. Ken Mule piano, Bobby Orr drums, Lenny Bush, great Lenny Bush, on the double bass. I've been enjoying Louis Bellson's selection from 4 classic albums, and well, we're going to continue, I think, enjoying a bit more Louis. Why not, is what I would say.
The moon was shining bright in Carolina, the night we said goodbye so tenderly. And now that I'm away from Carolina, won't somebody tell the moon for me? Oh, Carolina moon, keep shining on the one who waits for me. Carolina moon, I'm pining for the place I long to be. How I'm hoping tonight you'll go to the right window, scatter your light, say I'm all right, please do. Tell her that I'm blue and lonely, dreamy Carolina moon. Tell her that I'm blue and lonely, dreamy Carolina moon.
Nice little twofer there for you. Hope you enjoyed that one. Louis Bellson first off, in great company, as he usually is, to be honest with you. Louis on the drums, Charlie Shavers trumpet, Zoot Sims tenor sax. Saw Zoot Sims once. Don Abney the piano, George Duvivier bass, the man I love, starting off in that slow medley, or that slow sort of pace, I suppose you'd call, wouldn't you, sort of going, and then it starts off slowly and then builds up and then gets to be a bit of a swinger towards the end. Is rather nice, but yeah, enjoyed that one very much indeed. Concerto for Drums was the album for that one from our friends at Avid. Ballad to swing, that's what we like. And then, of course, a little bit of Perry from the selection we've been coming into as well for the last, or diving into for the last few weeks. I think I'll keep it in the bag for another bit more. You can't have too much Perry and then give him a rest. Then before you know it, it'll be Christmas. We'll bring all the Christmas Perry ones out. One way or another. Another one from Avid, great supporters of this programme, as I say, over the years. Wonderful, all the music that you can get on there. 2 CDs, Avid, plus bonus tracks. Lots of stuff, bargain prices, if you still are a CD fan, and I know a lot of people are who listen to this sort of music rather than the downloads, which the youth, I suppose, might go for now, and maybe you do as well. Who knows? Saves cluttering up your house, I suppose, but I don't know. Is it the same? Is it the same? I hope you've been enjoying your Tynwald Day, one way or another, and it's a nice way to wind down this evening, perhaps. I always think, and as I have done for many years at Manx Radio, we could have just have 2 tapes for Tynwald Day, a wet Tynwald Day tape and a dry Tynwald Day tape. And then if it was a wet day, we could whack the wet Tynwald Day tape on, which would run for 12 hours. No one would be any the wiser, so long as it sounded like it was raining at some stage during the outside ceremony, and ditto for the warm one, because otherwise everyone's out for a good time. And how many people can tell you the laws which were promulgated Probably not that many, unless you're actually in the House of Keys. Most people are out for a good time, seeing all the colour, maybe waving at the king or queen, as the case may be, if they happen to be in attendance, watching the country dancing, and then going to the beer tent. Or maybe that's me getting cynical in my old age. It is getting late on a Tynwald day, isn't it? OK, what about a little bit of Topsy? Yeah, we're all getting Topsy. Count Basie. Well, that's not a bad number to finish off with this evening, I think. Well, I certainly enjoyed it. I don't know, I'm more tipsy than topsy, really, after an exciting Tynwald day. Count Basie, of course, in his pomp. And so many wonderful albums by Count over the years. The Atomic Mr. Basie, well worth listening to if you've never heard it. I just remember that one from being a mere whippersnapper. Partly the album cover, I think, probably caught my eye. Back in the days of vinyl. But so many, and he went on for so long in sort of different styles, but could always swing. And one of those band leaders I'd love to have seen live back in the day. That's about it for this week, though. Don't forget, of course, next week, if you tune in at this time, you'll get Jumping In. That's the way it is going forward. We are alternating our two jazz programmes. Sweet and Swing with me, H. And then the following week, Jumping In, modern and contemporary jazz with myself and brother Chris. And then back again to Sweet and Swing, and on we go. And before you know it, it'll be Christmas. Hope you had a great Tynwald day. Didn't drink too much, got sunburnt. Not a great danger of that this summer, is there really? and I will see you on Jumping In next week, hopefully. And if you really, really don't want to join me then, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Whatever you're doing, look after yourselves. Be good. Cheerio.